want you to come on, get in, sing, don't stop, get up, get in. How many's ready for a good time in the Lord tonight? How many's ready to have church tonight?
It's like playing Russian roulette. Somebody's gonna die.
They call it religion. It's been branded a cult.
Can you say amen?
The lethal sect of the snake.
I believe it can free the very spirit from the body.
Fire and poisonous snakes handled in the name of God.
I said God still healing.
The serpent lays his fangs into me tonight. It's God's time for us to die.
It all comes down to one line in the Bible.
They shall cast out devils. They shall speak in new tongues. They shall take up serpents. These people believe that these are the words of the risen Christ.
Howdy.
I'm in La Follette in Tennessee, deep in the Bible Belt of America's South. I've come to meet some of the people who pick up snakes in the name of God. There are about 125 churches that practice snake handling, but very few open their doors to the media.
Thank you. Thank you, Jesus.
When I first saw it, when I was 17, the pastor goes over to a box and pulls out 2 large timber rattlers. They didn't try to bite him. They never tried to strike at him. It was just like holding a puppy dog. Then I said, I've got to find out if this is real or not.
Thank you, Lord, for one more day.
I was skeptical about it, but I knew there was something behind it.
Jesus. Man, not tonight, Biggin.
You know, I said, okay, God, move on me and let me do it. I was desiring to do that.
And this is what I do when I get them ready. I just sort of meditate, sing, feel good, you know.
The Lord began to move greatly, and I stepped down to where the box was at. I lifted the lid. I reached past the first 2. I got the biggest one out. I cradled it in my arms. I put it back in the box, shut the lid. And that was my first time handling a serpent.
Yeah, Daddy's in there, baby.
22-year-old pastor Andrew Hamblin lives here with his wife Liz and their 5 kids. Andrew runs one of the largest snake handling churches, and Liz is a devout believer. Liz, you picked up a snake while you were pregnant.
Yes.
How many months were you?
I was actually 8 months, which I had done it throughout my whole entire pregnancy, only when the Lord would move on me, because if it was the Lord, I just could not disobey any time that the Lord told me to do something and me say, no, God, I can't do it.
When God instructs you to handle them all day long. But the moment God says to put one up, or God says to leave one alone, you better listen to the voice of God as close as you've ever listened to anything. And every time you go to handle one, you better make sure that God is instructing you to do that, because you could possibly die.
In these parts, this practice has been going on for over a century.
And when the Spirit of God has got that old serpent, God said to it.
Largely hidden to outsiders, very few non-believers ever get to see this deadly act of faith.
I've documented just under 100 deaths from serpent bites in this tradition since the early 1900s, and there's probably many more that were never recorded.
At the University of Tennessee in Chattanooga, Dr. Ralph Hood is Professor of Psychology and Religion. He's been following the snake preachers for 25 years. He's even seen a preacher die by snakebite.
Serpent hunters are often accused of being crazy, or they'll say, yes, but I'm crazy for God. If you ask them why you take this literally, they said simply because we're obedient to the Lord. And the Bible clearly says they shall take up serpents.
Few people are as obedient to God as Pastor Jamie Coots and his wife Linda. Here, like all the snake handling churches, there's one strict rule. You can't pick up a snake until God moves you to do it.
God speaks to you. It's either to take a serpent up or to handle fire. It's a wonderful feeling, the most happiest you'll ever be, and it's just a wonderful thing knowing that you're that close with God.
Pastor Coots' church is across the border from Tennessee in Kentucky. He comes from a long line of snake handlers, 4 generations of his family. Jamie picked up his first snake when he was 20.
It was just a peace and a calm that just come over me, and yet an overwhelming joy that God had counted me worthy to let me do that.
From that moment on, he was bitten. And then he was really bitten. It was 1993. He and Linda were now married and had 2 children.
I thought, Lord God, he's going to die and leave me with these 2 kids to raise them.
A rattler bit me right here on the back of the arm. Just the pain, the swelling of the arm, my face, I don't know, my skin felt like there was just bugs crawling all over it. The nerves was just going crazy in my face.
Jamie survived, and his children are now carrying on the family tradition. That's daughter Trina. And there, with the butane torch, is son Cody. When he's not playing with fire, he's handling snakes.
To see Cody or Trina, either one, take up a serpent, I know that I have done my job as far as training them up in what we believe.
We're 2 hours out of town, on our way to a place Andrew Hamblin calls the home of the Copperheads.
We're almost to the spot. Yeah, we're hoping there's a rattler here today.
How many do you hope to find?
It's untold how many we'll find.
We find a nest and unearth not 1,
It's 3.
but 10 snakes,
Copperhead.
9 copperheads,
Oh, we got a blowing viper.
and this rare blowing viper
These are very rare.
in the middle of laying
It
eggs.
just had an egg.
It just had an egg, yeah, no wonder it's angry. So you don't keep the females?
No, we don't keep females. Females go back up underneath the rock. Want you to come on, get in, sing, obey the Lord.
Once the snakes are caught, it's time to preach. It's highly charged and highly illegal.
How many's ready for a good time in the Lord tonight? How many's ready to have church tonight? I'd like to hear another amen or 2 on that. Amen. Come on, children, get in, obey the Lord.
99% of the time in the southern states, you know, the law of God outweighs the law of man. Whenever they make a law that says you can't take up serpents, you know, or it goes against religious freedom, that's why I say, hey, listen, I do all these other crazy laws you tell me to do, but this law here is going against what my God has told me to do, so I'm going to do what God tells me to do. Y'all just go on about your business.
Will anything stop you?
There ain't but one thing that would probably stop me from doing what I do, and that's death itself.
Oh, they say it's a fake and it's a phony, but I'm so glad when he saved me, Brother Paul Gray, he gave me something I can feel. Come on, somebody.
What does it feel like, though? Is there a physical transformation that you can tell?
There is a physical feeling. I mean, it just feels, I can't explain, it's like a churning in your stomach, and you can feel it. It's like every hair on your arms and body, all your hair just stands on end, it feels like. I mean, it's a powerful thing.
This is a dangerous religion, and it's a deadly religion. We have seen brothers and sisters that we love dearly die from serpent bites, and it's just not something you play with.
They're not accidents. You know, snake bites are not accidents, they're mistakes. And you're gonna suffer the consequences from it.
Terry Phillip is the head curator at South Dakota's Reptile Gardens, the largest reptile zoo in the world.
Everyone wants to know, what does a snake bite feel like? I've been bitten one time by a small rattlesnake. The best way I've come up to describe that is basically to go ahead and light your hand on fire, and then every time your heart beats, take a hammer and put the fire out, and do that for several weeks or months. There's some snake bites that produce bleeding out of the eyes, the nose, the gum lines, all the other areas that are even less pleasant. So a snake bite is, the The best way to learn about snakebite is through experience, someone else's.
I have been bit 8 times in the last 21 years. I was bitten by a black timber rattler on this finger, and it rotted till it was just as black and hard as a piece of coal.
Where I grew up in North Queensland, brown snakes and taipans in the backyard were a regular occurrence. We were taught to fear them and respect them. If you were bitten by one, there is no question you would go straight to hospital.
I made a vow to God when I first started taking up serpents that if I ever was bitten, I would not go to the hospital, and if I ever went to the hospital, I would quit taking up serpents.
What if going to hospital would save your life?
I believe that when it's my time to go, there ain't a doctor in this world can keep me here. And if it's not my time to go, there ain't nothing out there can take me away.
This is Pastor Randy Wolford. Watch carefully. Right here, Randy is bitten. He holds up his hand, keeps dancing, but not for long.
God, when it comes to his flesh, he wants us just to offer ourselves up as a sacrifice. That's what God is pleased with, for us to offer ourselves.
Then later, while still suffering, he was back handling snakes. But last year, Randy's luck ran out. He was bitten again. It was around 1:30 in the afternoon. Randy refused to go to hospital. By 10:30 that night, he was dead. He was Andrew's best friend.
Called his wife. His wife told me she wanted me to help out with the funeral, help preach the funeral, and told me that she wanted me to bring snakes to the funeral because that's what Randy wanted us to go in, handle serpents. There's still some of us that's willing that if a serpent lays its fangs into me tonight, it's God's time for us to die. We're willing to die.
Not surprisingly, Andrew has also been bitten. 3 years ago, when he was 19, a rattlesnake struck. But rather than refuse medical treatment, Andrew went to hospital.
I wasn't afraid of dying. I wasn't afraid that I was dying, because I figured, well, if I'm dying, here I come, Lord, But the thought of leaving my wife and children, my children's so young, and here it is, Daddy's been snake bitten, he dies by snake bite.
Andrew was treated. He recovered and returned to the pulpit and his serpents. Yet in all the discussion about the risk, very little thought is given to those snakes.
It obviously has to be tremendously stressful on the snakes themselves. That music is really loud. Snakes don't have external ears, but they do have internal ear structures, so they can literally hear that vibration of really loud music. Flinging them from different places, you break their ribs, you'll break their vertebra. And whether you like snakes or not, animals do still deserve to be treated with some fashion of respect.
I could take up serpents, can you say amen? And rejoice.
God moves in mysterious ways. But whether he wants these devout men and women to handle snakes in his name depends on whether you really believe or not.
Now be sure to remember that there's death in that box. And if you don't believe, then don't go near the box.